And howdy, guys. Good to see everybody. Tim's stealing my lines. Hey, Tim, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you, Carnivore, please. Hello, everybody. Let's see here. We'll give everybody a minute to hop in. Hey, Abby. Great to see you. Hey, Miniwall. All right. Just making sure. All right, we got. There we go. Sorry, just letting everybody hop in. Feel free. I got to put the banner up. I never remember to put the banner up. Where's the banner? I don't have the banner. Well, you can put some cues in front of your questions if you have them and put them in there. And we're just going to give it a minute to let everybody hop in. And hey, Karen, good to see you. All right. There we go. Now the numbers are starting to pump up. There was a very tiny group of us there for a minute. Starting to get everybody in. I got to do a better job at advertising this before the day of. I get busy and I forget to put the thumbnail up. So I'm a terrible YouTuber. All right. What's everybody doing? Just woke up. Hi, Don. Good to see you. All right, guys. And go ahead and put any of your questions you might have in the chat. There's Lindy. She's over here working away and leaving me all on my own for time and time again. No worries. No worries. All right. All right. I think we got some people in here now. So yeah, I just was thinking about this week. Man, do you guys get all the time people? You know, as I know how we all end up helping people in the in the world when it comes to the carnivore, and man, I cannot seem to escape the people that are still so worried about calories. And so it gets so frustrating. Like just this week I had people messaging me, DMing me on Instagram for some help. And they always come back to the calories, especially if they get stuck, they always come back to the calories. And then even some people on TikTok, I like to hop into some live streams sometimes. And I hopped into a live stream last night from this doctor because I wasn't sure what his shtick was, but he was live and it was about weight loss. But I was really curious because it's kind of interesting to go in there, and he was talking about, he was just kind of middle of the road on everything, on weight loss surgery, on GLP-1s, on everything. And he was definitely doing the, there's no one size fits all, which I believe that's true, but it was, people were asking about bariatric surgery, and just everything was centered around, eliminating food, eliminating calories, eating less, restriction. And so I asked him, I said, well, what do you think of the carnivore diet? And he said, well, it can be effective, but, also it can be hard to be consistent with it. And then he said, but and then he said this, he goes, the one thing that everybody always falls in the trap of is they end up eating too high fat a carnivore. And that slows everything down because of the calories, And so I roll my eyes, and, it drives me a little bit insane because everybody comes back to the calories. And, it's, you just keep hearing it, right? And it's, calories have been just this focal point since pretty much, mid 1960s to 1970s, early 1970s. It's all been about restriction and calories and all this complete nonsense. And as a result, from, calories being the answer to weight loss, we become 3 times fatter. We become 3 times fatter and way more metabolically sick, and have introduced diseases we never even dreamed of back in the 1970s at, epidemic levels that are pretty incredible. And I mean, you can just look outside and you watch people, being sicker and more inflamed and suffering. Everybody's suffering with something at the highest degree that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And it's just incredible to watch. But yet, that system of calories is still in everybody's head like it's the gospel. That's how good they changed our environment for this money making propaganda model. It's just incredible. So I just was putting some thoughts together, and I used my friend Chat GPT to kind of collect them. But we put some together. This is not all just Chat GPT. This is videos and research that I've been doing for a while, but it just consolidated for me. And there's a lot of pages, but it is interesting, because the biggest reason is, the calorie restrictive model does not take in any account for hormones and the role of our body's natural signaling that it has to play. And that's what I've said for forever, like in the electrical world. If I was going to do a load calculation, I couldn't give you any kind of calculation if there was a complete variable on the load, right? And our metabolism is like, they sit here and act like it's a static load that can be calculated about how much your body's going to use for calories, and you need to be in a small deficit or a deficit. And then you're going to lose this weight, and then that's going to equate to health, right? And it's so crazy to me because, one, by eating in a deficit lowers the load because your body, just it slows down your metabolism because your metabolism thinks you're in, a famine. And so it starts putting your body in storage mode. It also increases cortisol, which also causes an insulin spike, which causes insulin resistance, which also causes you to store fat as fuel, or fat as for later date as fuel. And then they sit here and they tell you, it's all a design to put the blame on all of us, right? It's a little shell game that they play, because if they can say that all that matters is this calorie matrix that is completely nonsense, then we don't have to look into the type of foods, as in that there could be good foods and could be bad foods. Because if we start digging into that and looking under that rock, we're going to find out, and it's going to be really obvious, that the food that they push, that we're all had gotten addicted to, is not even food, it's just a drug. And they spend, $12 billion a year on scientists and psychologists to figure out how to hit that bliss point with all the different food products that they put out, and engineer all the new additives that can make it hyper palatable, hit that bliss point, make it super addictive and uncontrollable for your portions. And then usually that is all through, the sugars, the the sugars and the salts and the fats that they put together to hit that bliss point. And none of it is giving us the building blocks we want. It's all, hyper processed. And so we get addicted to it. Our brains get just lit up and addicted to this whole dopamine cycle. And also, in the meantime, we are actually becoming very malnourished, and our bodies are missing proteins and amino acids that they need in building blocks, and you know all the the necessity essential building blocks to maintain and maintenance and keep us healthy. And then on after all that, they have the audacity to tell us that we're supposed to even cut it down more, and we're supposed to restrict more. So as our body's getting depleted of proteins and saturated fat and white tissue and myelination on the nerves, and we're in this constant state of inflammation, they just keep pumping us these drugs, and then we all get sick. And then we go in and go, man, what's going on? The doctor's advice is don't eat saturated fat because it's dangerous. and don't eat red meat because it's dangerous. And eat, if you're going to have something, have a little bit of lean bird meat, lean chicken or lean fish, and make that only 2 times a week in these ridiculously tiny portions. And then they don't tell you, they tell you to eat certain calories, but by taking out the saturated fats and by taking out the red meats and the ruminant animals and telling you that the rest of the meat only eat a couple times a week, they're leaving you with is without saying it by default, they've built this little environment where all the things that create satiation and all the essential building blocks that you need, they're pulling them out of there, and then they're letting you kind of go out there and you read these labels without telling you that you read these labels and you see all these carbohydrates and hyper palatable processed foods out there that it say low fat, all natural, heart healthy choice, whatever balanced nonsense. And we think, oh, that's the the green flag for health right there. And then we all start eating it. And then we go back to the doctor because we're just getting fatter and sicker and more inflamed, and our joints hurt and our eyesight's failing. And we have some chronic thing and we're taking more and more medication and have anxiety and depression and all this stuff. And then we keep going back there, and they just keep putting it back on us and saying, well, you need to, eat less calories. It's the calories' fault. You're just over consuming, because they know that's a battle we'll never win. I mean, how when you're eating drugs instead of nutrients that are completely engineered and designed to not be satiating, to make you overeat, to make you hyper addicted to them, and they're void of the nutrients that your body's been screaming out for to heal and to repair in the first place, which you're never answering, satisfying or answering that call. And then in addition to it, they tell you to just buck up and use willpower and, and just restrict. And they keep pushing that. And so, they've done such a good job that just keeps coming back around and back around, and they pretend like hormones don't play a role in it. So I want to hear how you guys think about this. I want to hear what you guys think and how you address this with your friends and family or whoever's looking to you for help and they want to start this, but they always drag that dead stupid dying calorie restricted model in there. Because yes, I would 100% agree that if you eat more molecules of food, you will be larger for sure, and you will weigh more. But my argument would be, and it always is that some of that's going to be lean tissue, and some of it might be stored as fuel for a short time. But the longer that you give your body, even if it's in excess, the proper building blocks and actual nutrients, your body will start to heal. And the more that you even do it, because your body's been in a deficit for a long time, especially if you're like most of us, it's been in a deficit for a long time. And it has been a while since it has not felt like it was in a famine and in some sort of real stress place. I mean, you're pretty beat up. You're pretty inflamed. Your hormones are in all kinds of disarray. And so, it's so crazy that we're okay with going off the rails on a carb binge or whatever, and we're okay falling. But then when we come back, we are so scared to try bringing that same appetite and energy to eating the healthy things that might actually repair our body. And I'm just saying, even if you gain some weight, even if your pants fit tighter for a little while, I really would love it if people would trust it enough to just see what happens if they give their body all the building blocks that it needs to actually heal, even if it's, and it is the long game. But the reason why I contend that calories do not matter, even though I agree if you put more molecules of food and building blocks and energy in your body for a period, you will be, you could weigh more. You could have more mass to you for sure. I mean, that's just obvious. But it's not as simple as the calorie thing by any means. And what I would contest is if you do give your body what it needs, that your hormones heal, your body's signaling heals, and then it takes the reins. Like we've been sitting here basically trying to manipulate our bodies through this calorie restrictive model and pretending like hormones and all the complexities of the body didn't play a role in it, just to play some propaganda cover for the food and chemical industries that have been using us as their little addicted little crackheads to make money off of us. And we've let that sink in here. But if we just go back to the way things were, our bodies self-regulate, and our the more food that we have, it'll heal at first and it'll store some of it. And then when it sees regularly that you have access to all this food and all this real, real food, real nourishment, and then it's not in a famine, and your hormones heal and you get good sleep. And if we could just stop beating ourselves up at that same time, that would be great. Because we like to stress out over numbers. I want to weigh whatever weight I want to weigh. I want to be whatever percentage body fat I want to be. I want to look a certain way. I want to wear a certain size. And then we fixate over those things because ultimately we just keep grabbing for the wheel instead of turning it over to our body with the right foods, because we want to manipulate it to look a certain way. But if we could give up on those things for just a couple of years, give up on it for a couple of years. Nobody wants to hear a couple of years. I mean, you can do it for 90 days and you'll see that it starts really working. But if you just do it for a few years, like 3 years, I think you would be absolutely surprised. I think we would get over kind of the body dysmorphia stuff. I think we would get over kind of stressing out about the things that don't matter. I think we'd start feeling, everybody would feel better. They'd feel stronger. Their mental health would clear up. They would stop fixating over numbers that really don't quantify any real meaning or outcome that they're actually looking for. Because I think what we all really want is we want to feel good. We want to be free from having to try to control things that are ultimately out of our control, especially consistently. We want to take all the confusion and all the anxiety out of just trying to live. Like, it shouldn't be that we're trying to be like chemists and psychologists and all this crap just to live and exist without being sick. And that goes by what I said last week, when I've said many times, is because our environment's been so screwed up. And that's why I love doing these live streams. That's what I love about going down these rabbit holes and thinking about this stuff and finding out what works and learning from you guys and sharing what I've learned with you guys and being in the steak and butter gang, so that we can all build a new environment, so that we don't have to, listen to the nonsense about how dangerous, how dangerous eating like we have for thousands of years is now, where even though we become exponentially fatter and sicker, since 1970, that's not considered dangerous. That's considered science, but this seems radical. But when you get into when you change your environment and you get into the carnivore community, and I don't just mean SBG, I mean on YouTube, on being in the chat, like here, you guys start your own YouTube channels and spread the good word and just stay aligned. You start seeing all the healing that's happening, all the people getting their hormones back and they're building strength, and their lives are being changed. And then it pulls you out of that. And then you realize for sure that there's something wrong. And so, I know I've said all this in little things, but this is what's been on my head, in other conversations and pieced it together. But this is why it's been on my mind tonight, because this week it seems like every time I turned around this week, it was at the focal point, and it's all over. I mean, I keep going through TikTok, and there's 1 million live going on of people calorie restricted and doing exercises, and it's just like, I look at it now and I'm just like, you know, that those people, for maybe 1% of them or less, that's going to work out in the long run. But for 99% of those people, they are going to, just end up hurting their metabolism worse. They're going to come to the end of end of their willpower. And then that weight's going to snap back on so ridiculous. And this time when it does, their metabolism is going to even be in a worse spot, because the thing is when we lose weight by calorie restricting, we're not just losing fat, we're losing muscle, we're losing bone density, we're losing, white tissue, ligaments, and myelinization on the nerves. By only focusing on the calorie restricting, we're still eating a diet that's causing insulin resistance. We're kind of working it off with the exercising, but it's still spiking our insulin, and it still has us in a really inflamed state. And then we usually over exercise because we're kind of beating ourselves up and trying to do everything so fast, because we have this extreme mindset when we're calorie restricting and lifting and working out, because we have to get it done quick, because in our mind we know that this is not sustainable. Our brain's sitting there going, how, you have, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 years left to live, whatever. You think you're going to be able to keep up this intensity and pace and beating the crap out of yourself and starving yourself for the next 40, 50, 60 years? Like, our brain knows. That's why we set a unrealistic time limit. I want to lose 100 pounds in 6 months, or 5 months, or 4 months, or whatever. And we never have a plan. We just think that once we lose it, the stars are going to align, all of our problems are going to be better, our metabolism is going to be perfect, and everything's going to work out. And I'm saying this as a guy that's lost 300 pounds twice before and gained it back, and then some both times, and lost 200 pounds twice before and gained it back, and then some both times. And each time, because what happens is when we're starving ourselves and we're beating ourselves up and we're only watching calories, so we're working out and our body's eating itself, and we're not putting back the protein and the amino acids, and we're not putting back the building blocks to create the lean tissue. And then when we finally go off the rails, we don't go off the rails and go eat steak. We don't go off the rails and go eat, pemmican and ribeyes and, good protein and fats. We go off the rails and we eat pizza. We eat carbohydrates. We eat sugar. And so we put it all back on, all that weight and then some, but we have less lean tissue even. We burned a bunch of muscle and lean tissue, and then we didn't even put the good building blocks back in the same proportion that we had them before. We just ate garbage, and so we're a little bit sicker, and our metabolism's even more beat up. We have more metabolic disease, we have more insulin resistance, because when we go off the rails and put it all back on, it's you're have a higher percent of body fat than you did before, and you ate a bunch of sugar, and you have even more insulin resistance because you've been starving for so long. And we just keep repeating that cycle, but we still believe it, because I think there's just a natural whatever to want to beat ourselves up and blame ourselves for these things, and we all have our part to play in it. But I think it's more that we're letting ourselves be duped, by the system, where if we just would sit back and really look at it, there's no way that it's right, because we are in such worse shape, after 55 years of this, that it's not even funny. After 6 years, whatever, that it's, if this was any other product or any other service or any other science that has performed this embarrassingly, just turned into this catastrophe, there's no way we would not, laugh these people, this industry off the face of the planet as a horrible, ridiculous, embarrassing failure. But because it's been propped up by media and science and doctors and all this crap from all the money that's paid for it, and they keep messing with everybody's head and putting it back, even people that are completely running away from the standard American diet and completely running away from the food period, even all those people that are come to carnivore running away from that model, they drag the calorie restrictive model with them. And it's just beaten into us all because we feel like we still have to steer this ship where our only job, which to me, this just seems so biblical to me too, but our only job is to give the fuel and the building blocks that we were designed to have to our body and then give it back the wheel and let it do what it was designed to do. And eventually it might not be in our timeline that we want. It might not be as fast as we want to see it happen, but it will be the way, we're the only way we can manipulate our body and steer this thing is if we're doing it with willpower, and that never works. And that's why we have this, I need to do this in 6 months, a year, 18 months tops, whatever. We have these mental constraints that we can only do that for. But and so the idea of taking the slow, harder road that we think is slow and harder, it's not. It's way easier in my opinion, and pretty much everybody else's opinion, because but we relate the same pain and willpower and suffering and struggling as with carnivore as we did with the restrictive diets, but it's not, because we actually are getting the nutrients and the building blocks that our body needs, and our body starts taking over and getting stronger, and the cravings and addictions get weaker until finally, you know, we cross over that fulcrum, cross over that point to where our body's stronger than our weaknesses were, and then our weaknesses eventually disappear, and then we're just rebuilding, and we're finally free from it all. And that is why I think, I would like everybody to try this if they would just give themselves enough kind of grace and trust the system long enough to try it to where they could get free, to where they could come to grips with, this might take 5 years. If you're like me and you put and you pushed it to the extreme of death, and you put on an extra, I don't know, 450 pounds of, weight and damage, might take 10 years. It might, but it's all going to get better as you go. I can't wait to see where it's at when I'm at year 5. But I know that as long as I keep living, I'm going to keep growing in the healthier direction, and things are going to keep getting better. And I can't say that for anything else that's ever been offered to me. I can't say that for any diet that I've ever been on before, or any medical intervention that I've ever been offered before. And I've seen those. I didn't take them. But the medical intervention, I've seen family members and friends take all of them, and it did not age well at all. I'm already in better shape just in 33 months of carnivore than these people are after years of these medical interventions. So I don't know. That's kind of where my head was at. I would love to see what you guys have to say. I'm going to go check the comments and see if you guys put any questions in here. You guys are being kind of quiet tonight. And yeah, as I sit here and read the chat, I don't multitask well. All right, there's one. Let's see. Sorry for the quiet. I'm trying to pull through these. Oh, there's another one. We'll go to that. There's another one. Yes, please. Who I'm talking to will know what that is. uh, let's see here. As for exercise, really. Sorry, I'm just going through these. All right, there we go. I'm gonna go hit some starred ones. Put your starred comments in there. Mini Wasp says how important it is to track macros. And quickly, I would say not that important at all. However, I will say this: tracking macros is not important. But if you're having, well, like Tim would tell you, if you're having issues, because some of us have been eating so wrong for so long and our signaling is screwed up that it is nice to have kind of a base. And so I think in general, I think tracking anything is not good, especially to start, unless there's a real reason to track. But you don't just want to track to be tracking because, again, like I said, it's like we should be getting our hands off the wheel and turning it over to our body. And when we think we need to track macros, we're also saying, uh, that we need to be steering the ship. Because what are you going to do with the information when you have it? You shouldn't do anything unless you know why you're going to do it. So with that in mind, I would say you should start by not tracking anything. But then if you're having issues, like if you're having negative things and you're having a hard time pinning it down, then it's a really good idea to track for a minute, knowing that you're trying to find an answer to an issue you might be having. Like myself, I was under eating fat, and I had just assumed that I was, because I was eating New York strips and ribeyes, and I was eating them in pretty, quite a, like 3 pounds a day, that I had to be getting enough fat and protein. But when I actually looked at it, because I was throwing in a New York strip every other time, it wasn't even a 1-to-1 ratio on fat. So it was bringing my fat way down. And so I was having issues with it. And so I found, I just tracked the fat to protein so that I had an easier time seeing what it is that I should be starting with, and so that I could get the fat in there. And then I did. And then after that, I let my body kind of adjust it what it wanted, more fat or more protein. And once I did that, but so for those reasons, I think that it's a good idea to be able to track macros for a short period of time, so you can learn what it looks like, so that you can try to fix an individual problem. But I think as a whole, you shouldn't be fixating on numbers and tracking things all the time, every day, just for the heck of it, unless you know what problem you're trying to solve and what data you're trying to collect, to get some information out of it to give you a better direction. But ultimately, we should be doing our best to not fixate on any numbers and to turn this all over to our body and heal the hormones. So, Lisa, hi from Idaho. Question: is your back? How's your back, Todd? I heard it's hard to get people to stop eating all the processed junk food. Yeah, it is for sure. Back is still pretty sore. In fact, I'm probably going to go get an MRI here next week or the week after if something doesn't give, because I need to see what's going on in there. I don't know. I didn't think that it could have done much more damage from just being rear-ended in that little car accident. But yeah, this one even feels a little bit different than the last time I had a herniated disc. And it's, I still have, it's the sciatica. So I don't know if it just re-injured the herniated disc plus something else or what, but this one feels different. And it's really kind of annoying me because it's keeping me from sleeping at night. And so, yeah, I've been waking up and it's just kind of irritating. So I don't know. I'm going to have to figure that out here pretty soon. But I keep doing my back exercises, and I'm hoping that they'll kick in and start relieving some of the nerve pain for sure. All right. Well, we need to give ourselves the same patience we would extend to others. Yep, for sure. I've lost, but I look at my gains in times of how many things I've eliminated from my daily life. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah, and we have to. And it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of interesting, right? Because how do we know what, like when we hear that I want to lose 22 more pounds and then I'll be happy, or I want to be 18% body fat and then I'll be happy, or I want to be 12% body fat, then I'll be happy. I want to be 15% body fat, then I'll be happy. And I really wonder a couple of things. One, I highly doubt that if you're not happy at 24% body fat, you're not going to be happy at 15% body fat. I would definitely argue that. I just don't see it happening. I don't think that there's a number on the scale that you can weigh or a percentage of body fat that's actually going to make you happy if you're not finding that on your way to that number. Number one. Number two, why do we think that a certain, what if you want to be 18% body fat, but what if your body wants to be 26% body fat? What if it says that that's where you're healthiest, that that's where you're happiest, that that's where you're strongest, and then that's where you have the most endurance, and that's what's going to make you live the longest, and it's what's going to make your hormones the healthiest, and it's what's going to make your mental health the healthiest? What if that's the case? And what are you willing to trade to look a little leaner with your clothes off for the short period of time that you get to do that, I guess, or wherever you get to do that? And it, like, if we could really quantify that and say, because like, I know that there's a happy medium, and there's probably even a fairly good bandwidth that'll get you both. There probably is. I don't know what it is. But for me, I wonder, because, let's take the bandwidth. Clearly, let's put me at one end because I'm the one end extreme. You can't be 715 pounds and you're saying, no, this is healthy and this is where my body wants me. Clearly, that's not healthy, right? But also look at like Rich Piana and these bodybuilders that are in the 5% club that have taken all the steroids and all the, hormones and lifted and manipulated their body to be 300 pounds of solid muscle. And then they have brain aneurysms when they're 50 and die, or they have cancers, or they have heart attacks because they manipulated their system to look a certain way. I mean, that's body dysmorphia, just like anything else, to be supposedly healthy, or even what Mark Bell is doing right now. I mean, Mark Bell is taking steroids and super lean, but he's doing that because ultimately, I think these guys lie to themselves. But the fact of the matter is, sure, they're probably healthier than really metabolically sick people with a ton of body fat on them, like me. Like me at 700 pounds, Mark Bell is certainly, even as low body fat and as crazy as he is, he's certainly more healthy than I was when I was at 700 pounds. But there's a point here where if Mark Bell keeps doing what he's doing and I keep getting healthier, there's a point that me at 30% body fat has probably got a way higher life expectancy than somebody that's abusing steroids to look a certain way at 5% body fat. And anytime I'm trying to work out anything in my head of, where the truth lies, it's good to go to both ends, extremes of the bell curve, and then start walking it back in, And so my question would be, is where is that balance? And if you want to deviate from that balance, maybe 15% or 5%, and you want to deviate from that because you want to manipulate the way that you look to look a certain way, but you're risking losing everything that you did and going off the scale and spiraling again into whatever old addiction you had, and losing control and harming your metabolism again, and going back to everything that you've built and everything that you've healed by letting your body do it. Is it really worth it? Is it worth chasing a certain look or a certain number on a scale or a certain body fat percentage so that you can look a certain way, so that you can, I don't exactly even know what, mainly because, Hollywood and Hollywood and the media told us that we're supposed to, we're going to be happier and more successful if we look super lean and veiny and whatever. But what if it's not actually the healthiest way? I don't know that we really know that answer, but I know that on the ends of the bell curve we do. I know that there's certainly an argument to be made that 24% body fat is way healthier than 5% body fat. that you have a way longer life expectancy with 24% body fat eating a healthy diet than 5% body fat manipulating your body. There's a heck of an argument to be made there. So I don't know. Put in the comments what you guys think on that. What are your guys' thoughts? Would you risk it? And where's that cutoff for you guys? All right. Todd, do you think doing lion diet and just eating red meat, lamb, and venison is the best way to eat long term? So I personally do. So here's the thing. I went lion diet twice to actually as a challenge just to do it to see what would happen. The first time that I did it, I was eating eggs for my testosterone, and I was eating a bunch of them. And the first time that I did it, I was fine with it except for I missed eggs. Then over about the next, year, I kind of lost my taste for eggs. And so I did it again. And that time I really didn't miss anything. But I'm not technically I didn't make a decision to be on the lion diet, and I'm not technically on the lion diet. If I wanted to eat bacon tomorrow, I would, but I'm actually on the lion diet because all I eat is pemmican, which is ruminant animals and ruminant animal tallow, and a steak. And that's all that I eat. And I didn't make that choice to be lion. I made that choice because it's the best I feel, and it's the most sustainable and the easiest for me. And it's where I get the most results in healing. And so, yeah, I would have to agree, not because I chose to be lion, but because through the process of just listening to my body picked lion. And so that's what I thrive on, and that's what I've spent I'd say the majority of my carnivore now has been lion, and it not by some big choice, either. It's like my body just steered me into it because it's where I feel optimal. So I would say, yeah, I do think it's the best. But I wouldn't I don't know that your body and my body's the same, but I would imagine that the good majority of people will find the same. And I don't know how I'm going to feel in another 2 years. If my body wakes up tomorrow and tells me I need some salmon, I'm going to eat some salmon. If my body wakes up tomorrow and tells me all of a sudden, for whatever reason, I need bacon, I'm going to have some bacon. But I just don't. From all the data that I've gathered from my body so far, is that I do not feel as good when I eat pork. I definitely don't feel good when I eat chicken. And when I eat red meat and tallow, I feel incredible, really over the top incredible. Let's see here. Miniwa cannot stand the taste of cold butter or tallow. Need to figure out a way to get more fat in my diet. I wish I liked cold butter or tallow. Make it a lot easier. For sure. I don't. I ate all my pemmican bars that were sitting here. I never liked, I'm not a huge fan of cold butter as far as flavor goes either. And so here's what I'll say on that. So the pemmican is the way to go for me, and I quite enjoy it. But the other thing is, you don't have to make pemmican to have the brown butter bites and whatever. But taste buds also change too. And so you just kind of gotta, if you don't like it, then you have to start doing it in smaller, consistent quantities until your taste buds change, because they do change. It's funny that we think that we're born with this, certain like almost like taste buds are just completely genetically designed or something, and it's really not. They're part of that whole signaling network that we're talking about and trying to heal, right? Your taste buds are right in there with it. That when you start giving your body the things that it finds the most beneficial, and it starts getting the most nutrition, and it starts fixing the most problems with, your taste buds change, and it starts targeting that, and it starts making you crave it. Also, just because I know you, Mini Juan, you've had, you're doing really good and you're off your oxygen, you're doing fantastic. But just like anybody starting carnivore, you've had your ups and downs, and some of the stuff with like the the fried chicken or the coleslaw or whatever, it can also help feed those little microbes in your gut that still kind of manipulate your taste buds, right? You kind of got to let those die off so that your taste buds, will just start to change and really target the right foods. Because as long as you leave those pesky little microbes alive that like to live off of carbohydrates and sugar, and you don't have enough fat in your diet, those things can persist for a little while and they can manipulate you a little bit. So that's why it's so important to be as consistent as you can and then work at it like it's your job to slowly increase that fat. And then your body will start really craving it. So mine definitely does now. Let's see here. Did I miss anything? You guys are being so quiet tonight. Let's see. Thinking for myself, I could do that. I miss anything? Yeah, for sure. I love fasting for getting over an aversion. Like you fast long enough and you get over some pretty extreme aversions. Let's see here. Same here, Todd. Love the energy and how I feel on red meat versus bird and fish. For sure. I mean, it's just day and night difference. And that's why, I think ultimately staying carnivore is, you know, or red meat is king, and ultimately letting your body decide and show you what you want. That's the best thing we can do is when it takes the wheel and whatever it wants, and if it steers you into lion, then obviously that's the best thing for our makeup. I think I have a dairy issue. What symptoms would I have if so? Well, usually gut symptoms for sure. Like, I mean, all sorts of things, diarrhea, heartburn, gas, bloating, indigestion, all those things. But then also like inflammation and allergic reactions, right? Like being inflamed, having a stuffy nose, goopy, runny eyes, runny nose. Those things can come from that too. But the best thing to do is just, I mean, I can't do most dairy at all. Plus, it opens up your appetite. It makes you, it's going to make you eat more. It's going to signal for you to eat more, and it's going to, it's not a great thing. I think that you should, if you even think that you're having that issue, you should just drop it for like 3 weeks and journal the differences that makes, and I think you'll be surprised, and that'll tell you for sure. All right. Hey, Kelly. Todd, can you tell us about the slow burn contest? I missed the details. For sure. Coach Lissa there in open chat. And actually, I think Laura's in here too. Laura is the slow burn expert. Yep, there's Laura. Laura's the slow burn expert in the chat here. But well, Lissa wants to get her guns back. Laura has the guns champion of SBG for sure. And so Coach Alyssa challenged us to join their slow burn challenge, which is basically just to do the slow burn stuff and kind of take before and after pictures. And then we're going to check in, I guess, weekly and just let people know how we like it, if we're having any complications with it, and what the progress is and what we're feeling about it. And so they brought in, man, I'm going to probably forget his name, but I think his name is Frederick Kahn, I think. And he came into SBG and he did a talk on it. And I was on the fence because I'm already lifting and I have a gym already and a routine. And then I listened to him talk and he kind of made a lot of sense. So I'm going to give it a shot, especially because, well, I'm old and fat. And Han, there we go, Han. And yeah. And so, especially because I'm old and fat and I keep lifting, and I think I remember I used to do this X, Y, and Z when I was 24, and then I go and try to do X, Y, and Z, and then I hurt something. So I like the idea of trying to build back some of that old muscle and the old muscle memory and bring it back and build some better core strength before I go off all half cocked and keep and keep spraining my arm is what I did last time. So I don't want to sprain my arm again. So yeah, so that's the plan. But there's not any. It's really just a friendly competition or uh, what do I say, accountability group within Open Chat that is going to be that Coach Alyssa's kind of putting out there, and Laura is helping us with because she's been doing it a long time. I worry that body fat percentage is too low will be a huge disadvantage when cancer pops up. Yeah, for sure. Lots of things. Cancer, any kind of real serious illness. I mean, Coach Alyssa had lupus and she was way underweight, and she is the thing that she's most happy about was putting on some weight because she knows that, when she was getting sick and couldn't, when you have a flare up of an autoimmune disease that won't even let you eat, you're in a real pickle if you have a low body fat percentage, because it could be fatal, like you're in way better shape to heal if you have some healthy body fat to be able to live off of. And that's why I think it's I think that whatever's going on with societies, it's like they're pushing this message that everybody needs to be like 7% or less body fat and all veiny and super tan and full of, fake prosthetic stuff to look a certain way and all painted up with, just everything is so nuts. Put all these chemicals on your body so you don't get a sunburn. Well, the truth of the matter is, if you eat carnivore, you have better skin because you actually have building blocks and collagen and fat that your skin's made out of, so you don't burn, and the sun isn't this deadly dangerous thing that's going to give you cancer anymore because you actually have skin that's built to thrive in the sun. But if you eat all this crap that they're feeding us and you can't be out in the sun, well, you don't get all the healing nutrient properties from the sun. And so they're like, well, if you're going to be out in that dangerous thing, put all these chemicals on your skin so that you don't die from the sun, because they're blocking all the vitamin D and crap. And you go out there and they want you to be super skinny, and then they're okay with all that. They're okay with all the injections and all the stupid stuff. But then on the flip side of that, the diet and the medical information and the propaganda that they're pushing out there is just making the world the most fattest and sickest it's ever been. And I mean, it's such two crazy opposites of the spectrum, and it's driving people insane, and everybody's got body dysmorphia because they're all trying to get to a place that was never promised to any of us and that we weren't designed to be in. And they pretend like if we get there, we're going to be happy. And it's just not true. As close as I ever came to getting there after losing 300 pounds and I got pretty muscular was one of the sickest I'd ever been mentally ill mental health wise, and wanting to eat a bullet. It doesn't make us happy. That's the saddest part, is when you do everything that you have to do and you put up with all the suffering to get there. And then you get there and you're every bit as sick and as miserable. You're just way less and you look different. It's it's a pretty evil thing, Let's see here. There we go. Kelly to Laura. Laura, would you be able to give a talk and maybe give some extra examples or some examples of what you do with the slow burn? Yeah, I think that would be great. Are you want to do a slow burn talk, Laura? Yeah, he talked me into it. I even ordered 1.25 pound weights and a stop clock, a stopwatch for my gym. I found a really nice one on Amazon that's got a remote control and a foot pedal. So when you start, you can hit the foot pedal and the stopwatch goes, and it's a big one that goes on the wall. And so, because I've done Sean O'Mara's sprinting stuff enough to know that it was really annoying me to hit the stopwatch on my phone. So I needed to up my stopwatch game. Oh, Lori, you got two people that want you to talk about the slow burn. All right. There we go. Did you do one, Laura? Is that what you're saying? You did one already? You watched the replay and interview I did with Fred? Yeah, he watched that interview with Fred. He just wanted you to do, unless you did one on his channel or something. If you did, Laura, there we go. Do you have another one? Are you just talking about the one he did in SBG, Laura, or do you have one that you did on your channel or something that they could go look at? All right. Well, we're going to do this. I'm going to pop up the SBG if you guys want to join us in SBG and see more of the slow burn stuff if you're not in there, and join us in the slow burn challenge and hang out with us in open chat. This is how you get over there. So you can just, I got to fly in here. Oh, it sounds like I'm getting the lowdown from live live in the behind the scenes, and it looks like Fred's coming back in October. So yeah, come and hang out. All right. Is this your stopwatch? I don't know. I don't know if you guys meant to put a link here. Let me see if I can find it. I'll put a link. Hold on. Let me pull it up. Oh, that's not gonna work. Hold on. Oh, I know what I'll do. 1 second. Do. I'm never prepared for these things. One memento. Yeah, and Fred said to get 1 pound weights, but the smallest ones I could find on Amazon were 1 1/4 pounds. But I'm sure that'll be fine. I will tell you that was the most humbling set of weights I've ever purchased, and felt a little demasculated. Not gonna lie. Oh shoot! Sorry, I'm trying to find it here. There it is. Come on, open up. There we go. But humble beginnings. It's where big things start. I hope. And almost there. Paste. Now I can copy it and send you the link. Copy. And there's the stop clock link. Quite enjoyed that. And so that's the one. It looks like, oh, I can't put that up. It won't let me put that in there. But that's the one that'll take you to Amazon. £1 weights. I didn't know that they come that way. Yeah, there's one here. I'll get that link to that as well. There's they look like let's see. Maybe I can do this. There we go. Share screen. Entire screen. This side. Share. So these are the 1 1/4 pound weights. And then I got some 5 and 10 pound ones that come up. And then this is the little stop clock that I got. You can hit, got the slow burn stuff, and hit that, and it starts the clock, and you hit it again. But it also comes with a little remote, so that you don't have to have the foot pad either. But that is how that goes. All right. I wrote his book lesson. I'm not alone. All right. Well, yeah. Well, you guys should hop into SBG and join us if you're not already in there. Join us if you're not already in there on the Slow Burn Challenge and come hang out with us in open chat. And again, that's where we're at. You can find us there if you're not already in there. And yeah, it'd be fun to see you. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's just the stop clock. Because when I was doing Sean O'Mara, well, I still do it. I do it on an exercise bike, and when you're only doing it for like 10 to 15 seconds, it's really that those seconds you lose on the phone trying to get the stupid stopwatch to start was a pain in the butt. And then you'd have to reset it. And I was doing 10 sets of them. It was such a pain in the butt. This thing would have been so nice. And so, let's see here. So, anyways, let's see. I think I got some stuff in the chat here. Let me go up. Working on getting a ticket. Oh, that's awesome. Well, we'll see you there, Miniwa. Let's say yes. So open chat. It's in SBG, and so what SBG is Steak and Butter Gang, but it's a carnivore community. But what people don't understand, it's not like some chat group. We have multiple Zoom calls every week, but 3 of those Zoom calls, actually 4 of them, 2 of them are open chats, which are 2 hours on Fridays and Sundays. Are open chats that are 2 hours, and it's just a Zoom call that everybody's welcome to, and we all just sit there as a community and we talk over carnivore topics, and things like the slow burn and anything that we're going through, and what priming and fasting is, and just all things carnivore and health in general. And Alyssa and me host that call, and then on Saturdays we do a men's only called Iron Sharpens Iron, and a women's only call. So we separate those things so that we can talk about things that we just want to talk about with the fellows or the ladies. And then we have a bunch of other Zoom calls as well. We have a priming Zoom call on Monday and a fasting Zoom call on Tuesdays. And then Alyssa hosts the carb addiction, sugar addiction call. I think that is is it on Wednesday or Thursday? Help me out, Alyssa. I forget what day. It's either Wednesday or Thursday. The carb addiction meeting is. And then we also have a we have a NSB meeting on Saturday nights, and then we also have a calls with like Sean Baker and Anthony Chafee, and Elizabeth Bright is coming in next, and just Dr. Kiltz, and all these different carnivore doctors that come in, and experts that do talks in there once a month. So it's pretty awesome. And yes, Alyssa, it's on Thursday. And now I'm going to go look. You made it, though. I appreciate it so much. All right. Now I have to. All right. I'm going to go find your chat, Laura. Okay, there we go. Melanie and I will be doing a live in September, Muscle Matter. And we'll be talking about slow burn and what Melanie does also. Okay, perfect. There we go. So that's another reason to join up for September if you guys are wanting to check out the slow burn with us. So that'll be awesome. Oh, it's swallowed. Trust me, it's swallowed for sure. When I started lifting and everything was heavy when nothing used to be heavy, yeah, I swallowed that. I was like, I am not impressing anybody ever again. Yeah, pride is gone for sure. All right, where are we at here? Oh, there we go. Tom and Nina. I've learned so much listening and participating in the SBG chats over the 500 days of Carnivore. That's awesome. I appreciate it. I think it's vital. And I mean, I say this still to this day. I've never taken a penny from SBG. I do not get any affiliates when popping that stuff up there. I'm not doing it because I get any money from it whatsoever. It is 100% because I truly believe, and you've heard me say this, and I'll say it again, but I truly believe that Gary Taubman and Dr. Robert Lustig is how I started Carnivore, and I started thinking totally different, and I stopped beating myself up thinking that, yeah, I was just going to be eternally broken and this was all there was and it's a me problem and only God knows how I got this broken, but wasn't going to fix it, right? And then they said, both of them did talks, and I listened to them both say, look, you can't affect, 74% of the world's population is obese or overweight, and 88% is metabolically ill. And you cannot affect the behavior of those kind of percentages of 8 billion people. You couldn't do it by gunpoint. Like, we try to do that, and we have things like the death penalty and governments and armies and police, and we cannot get that high a percentage of our population to do anything. The only way that you can affect the population at those kind of percentages is to change the environment to where they literally don't have a choice. And that's why I know I get, this is where the YouTube people put me in jail, but I know that this is not an accident. You don't completely design a new environment if there's not a strategy, a plan. Like, this is not an accident. Some of it, yeah, some of it was just because it was making money. And so it just kept progressing and snowballing it. But somewhere along the way, when I'm sure that the original motivation was probably just making money and going, you know what, if we get them addicted, they'll just eat more and that's their problem. But I think somewhere along the way, because so many things got in lockstep with it, you know, the so-called scientific studies that get bought and paid for that end up in an entire medical system that lies to us, that lies to us to tell us that things that are true or that are not true are true, and that things that make us healthy are dangerous, right? It happens all the time, and it's their whole message. And that eventually formed, an entire new environment where they demonized everything that makes us healthy, or virtually everything that truly makes us healthy. And they allowed big food and big chemical to turn our what they call food, it's not even food, but to turn the products that we eat into highly, hyper palatable drugs. And then instead of, that's makes so much money that they just ended up selling us pharmaceutical drugs on top of it to, you know, to try to handle the symptoms, treat the symptoms, give us relief from the symptoms. And it just made us slaves, And so, anyways, it can't be, it can't be an accident, basically. And so that's why I love doing these live streams. I love talking to you people. I love meeting you guys at the meetups. And I love being an SBG because the more time I spend in there, the less time I spend getting propagandized by the environment that made me sick and the environment that killed my dad and killed my brother and the reason why my mom has Parkinson's and all these things and what made me 700 pounds. I get to opt out of that system and not be manipulated and brainwashed by that system and listen to the nonsense. And I get to see other people get healed, and I get to point that out, and other people wake up and they come in and then they get healed, and we all get to do it together. It's basically creating the environment that I want to be a product of, instead of having this manipulative, controlling environment shoved down our throat that takes our quality of life and our freedom from us, you know? All right. Yeah, 100% business model dependence. Yep. All right. All right. Did I catch everything? I think so. Let me check my messages over here. Yeah, I think we got that. Appreciate it, Laura. Yeah, Fred Hahn's coming back maybe in October. So, all right. Well, I appreciate it. We made it a little past the hour, and just want to make sure I got all the questions. I did. It was fun hanging out with you guys. Come hang out with us in SBG and in the open chat. And also, Don's got one last one. Going to try and get out the way and get out the way to the next meetup. Yeah, that's awesome. Talking the wife into it. Hard part, not Carnivore for sure. That is a tough one for sure. Well, I hope we get to see you. It'll be real fun to meet you in person. I feel like I've known you a while in SBG now. Yeah, thanks, Kelly. I'll definitely be seeing you in SBG. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. And but yeah, come hang out with us. Otherwise, I will see you on Friday's live stream. So it's good to see y'all. Love y'all. We'll see you guys next time.